It's an amazing turnout here today, and thank you guys for taking this time with us over the next 30 minutes. I have to really give kudos to the AWS event marketing team. They truly believe that what we are here to present can really enlighten and awaken the minds who has gathered here after a very good lunch. With that, moving forward, right, there are two things which I can tell you with a lot of certainty which is going to happen through the session and at the end of the session. One, halfway into the session, you might all kind of think what we are presenting here, it is too good to be true. And that's a good compliment, which we always get. And the second most important thing which happens is folks who are developers, engineers, disruptors, innovators, CTO, they go and test the power of the platform. That's something which happens every time we get an opportunity to go and talk about what we kind of do in the data and analytics space. With that background, today if you look at, as you kind of started your day and you kind of came to this particular conference, you would have used one of the ride-sharing applications, Ola and Uber, and on the way you probably would have checked the stock market and you have probably bought some stocks or shares, right? And you would also have bought some groceries. And today for these applications to work, these modern intuitive application to work, they kind of bring in data from multiple sources, and it is real time, and they bring this information to you in the right context, and they give a choice to you to make a decision, and all this happens real time. Today as we speak, every tech company around the world, every companies around the world, we are all trying to see how do we act on data real time, because it's not happening at least in a good chunk of companies where the data just goes to a data lake or a data warehouse and it just dies there, and the value of the data kind of gets lost. So when you look at these modern intuitive, your applications or the GenAI RAG application you build, the user interface is always very modern. It's intuitive, right? It's touch and click. But most of the time, what we miss to understand and what we miss to address is the underlying data infrastructure. It is way too complex because you're dealing with a lot of data coming in real time. You have to make sense of it, and you have to present this choice to the end user. So what we truly believe the future of a modern data platform is going to be, it should give you the ability to transact with data with high fidelity. You should have the ability to reason with data without moving data and put it in the right context in single-digit milliseconds. And that's what we believe the future of all modern application and GenAI RAG application. So today, what is SingleStore, right? We are a data platform on which you can transact, analyze, and contextualize with data real time. And how do we do that? Today, the architecture is built in such a way, when you're looking at ingesting millions of records or transactions, it goes directly into our in-memory. And the architecture is built in a distributed way, so it gives you a great ability to scale horizontally, and it becomes a better TCO. Then the tech is also built in a way which is SQL compliant. So your existing application or your developers have the ability to interact with data as the data comes in. The second key capability is our analytics, the columnar capability which is native within one single data platform which SingleStore offers today. So you have the ability to do aggregations and complex joins within the same data. So that means historical and real-time data, you can make sense out of it. And the third most important thing with your GenAI, which RAG applications, everybody are looking at vectors. Vectors something which we have part of our data store for many, many years. And that gives you the ability to contextualize data real time. So today when you look at SingleStore, many of you or some of you are hearing this company for the first time, but we have been around for the last 13 years, working with global Fortune 500 companies across the world. If you look at financial services, cybersecurity companies, B2B SaaS companies, we kind of power most of them. One of the biggest differentiation as the data platform provides we are one of the first ones who went out and built out this universal storage where you can do transaction and analytics part of the same data store. And we are the first one to be awarded the patent for the three-tiered architecture. The data could be on in-memory, disk, and an object store. Vectors, today everybody are talking about it. We believed, part of our vision, that vectors has to be part of the native database for you to really make sense of data in real time. And we got some of our largest customers using vector capability for the last many years. One of the largest OEM manufacturer out there, their entire sales GPT is powered out on SingleStore. We got one of the high-tech companies out of Israel who provide video surveillance platform where they can capture real time if there's a carjacking happening in place. So that's the vision and belief in which we have built this platform. And as you are today, it's a very strategic decision to move to a new data platform. We understand that. And we've been around, and we are a $100 million company. We are an enterprise-grade data platform which has been powering some of the most innovative applications around the world. Today, our customers love SingleStore, especially customers who have heard of it, and not just heard of it, the customers who have gone and built their services and application on top of our data platform, because they could see the speed, they could see the performance, and they could see the simplicity in what they are trying to deliver and achieve. So when you look at your database, right, with the kind of data coming in from your streaming, clickstream, you need to have the ability to process a huge amount of data. And it's far more relevant in today's Gen AI and RAG world because you will need to process petabytes of data, and that's what one of the largest customer of us do. So when your data scales, when the volume of data is very high, then your ability to act on it becomes very, very critical. So when you do your read, your query performance time on SingleStore will always be single-digit milliseconds. That's one of our biggest differentiation which we have out there. And our NPS is almost at 45 because it's one of the highest standard for us, because every company who has started moving away from the legacy data store into a modern fast data platform like us, they see the kind of impact what we deliver to their end customers and also to their partners. You know, our marketing really love this slide, but today if you have, assume we got a lot of engineers and thought leaders in the data engineering world out here. When you are building out an application, be it a RAG application or a modern application, most of us, what we do, right? We build a beautiful app, which looks very good in the front, but then you go and set up a transaction database. And most of us go and set it up on a MySQL, on a Postgres, which is fine, because when you're starting off with a smaller data workload, it just works fine. So we just go and set it up. Then you have to do analytics on top of it. Then you started introducing ETL and moving data onto an analytics data platform. Then many interesting things starts to happen. Today, as you start building data products and services, you need to bring in data from third party. You need to bring in JSON data. Then you start going and setting up a NoSQL data store. Then as your application's adoption increases with more users, then you go and set up a caching data store. Then you want to introduce a search feature. Then you go and set up a search data store. And with vectors, you start bringing in another specialized data store. So today, if you're building your application, and I can tell you very confidently when you're working with many of the large fintech companies, cybersecurity companies, SaaS companies, 70 to 80% they have this infra, right? And it's highly taxing because the point of failure of you trying to move data all the time is going to fail, right? And as you're trying to scale, as the ingestion increases, as your user increases, this kind of architecture doesn't work. And that's why we're working with many of the innovators, especially and disruptors in the engineering leadership to try and change this. And that's how, as a company, we have been very, very successful. So how do we come and simplify this for our customers? Today, if you look at it, if you're building an application, it could be a dashboard, it could be a modern mobile application or a RAG application. You don't need many purpose-built data store. What we provide is one single powerful data store which has the ability to do transaction and analytics in one place. Second most important thing is you don't need many purpose-built database because you can store and process structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data part of the same data platform. And the most important thing is you don't need an ETL to keep moving data because all these things happens in one single database. And one of the other reasons why our customer love us is because it's our distributed architecture that gives them ability to scale very seamlessly without having a significant impact on their TCO. And we are a three-tiered architecture where data could be stored in memory, disk, and on object store. So that becomes a very, very powerful solution to anybody out here who's trying to build the next generation data products and services. And our solution is available across cloud, and that's something we are seeing a lot of traction coming in because most of the innovation which we see is happening is on the cloud, and that's why we are a very, very strategic partner with AWS. So I think as we're all gathered here today, we are trying to learn when you're building the next RAG application, these three are the fundamental principle, right? Because this ain't going to change. If you're going to put out an application out there, if it's not fast enough, no one is going to use it. You're not going to see an increase in your user adoption, nor in your revenue, right? So that's something we strongly believe. With our ability to do both search on structured and unstructured data in a single query, it becomes extremely fast. That's a very important belief what we have. Second, anything you build in today's world, which is going to be powered by data in real time, it has to be of scale. Otherwise, your underlying data structure will start to fail. Because you will start dealing with petabytes of data as you started bringing in transaction and analytics part of the same data store. The third most important thing is it has to be simple, right? If your structure, underlying data architecture, which is in most of the cases as complex as today with multiple data store, and you're moving in data, it ain't gonna work. It's going to fail. So we believe that having a simplicity part of your architecture where you can store and process any kind of data with any kind of volume is going to be the future. Especially when it comes to you guys building your GenAI applications. Speed is going to be the most important thing because you will be dealing with your historical data and real-time data. And if you're building your next generation RAG application on an architecture where you have got 4 to 7 different data store which does 7 different things, it's impossible for you to deliver a meaningful RAG application. That's where we believe with SingleStore capability, your new gen RAG application will be able to do your vectors, a transaction, and analytics part of the same data store, and its native ability to connect with any of the LLMs out there gives you the flexibility to deliver responses to your users in millisecond response time. And we work all the time with the global leaders. We work with the biggest financial services companies, cybersecurity companies. One of the largest wealth management companies out there where HNIs, ultra HNIs used to manage their portfolio online, for them, a millisecond has impact of millions of dollars. So they had an existing data platform which has been used by these ultra HNIs where they used to have system outages. There used to be a delay. And the cost of them to manage this data platform was unimaginable. They moved on to SingleStore, and their ability for their investors to look at the stock information and act on it has made a huge impact, and their acquisition and retention rate has gone significantly high. We work with cybersecurity companies which support and manage most of the enterprises out there. Their ability of cybersecurity companies is just not to detect threat, right? Detecting threat doesn't mean anything. You're getting a notification, you're getting hacked. What does it mean today for us? Nothing. But the ability to act on the threat real time becomes a differentiation. So that's where we work with many of the largest cybersecurity companies out there. We work with many sales tech and martech companies, and that's where I've got my co-speaker, Ashish from 6sense, who are kind of really living in a world of believing without data, they can't even run their business. their users cannot use their services. And that's the power of the platform we deliver to our customers and partners. And when you have Ashish talking to you about today, he will talk to you about his journey, how moving to a modern fast data platform like SingleStore is helping them to scale. Their business being on data, their revenues are like more than $300 million, and the valuation is at $5 billion. So when they made a choice of moving away from the first generation and second generation data store to something like modern and fast, it has to be reliable, not only as a tech, but also as a company. So that's where our partnership with most of the tech companies, your enterprises, your SaaS companies has been a big success. With that, I don't want to talk about a lot about how SingleStore does great in terms of its performance or bringing down the TCO, and I would love to have Ashish to talk you through that journey, and I'll come back later. Thank you.
Thanks. Afternoon, everybody. This is Ashish Kumar. I work as the director of data platform and data engineering in 6sense, and before that, I was working for Qbol and Ola Cabs. There also, I was, leading our data platform and AI/ML initiatives. So this is pretty new name probably for most of you, 6sense, if you're not right into B2B. So what is exactly 6sense, and what exactly the kind of offering we have? So if I have to oversimplify 6sense, so we help our customer to find their customer. Very simple, right? So it's a RevTech revolution founded almost a decade back by two gentlemen, Viral and Premal. And then it's a B2B offering. We support multiple personas. I just want to expedite that particular introduction part so that we can focus on the tech side of it. So we support personas like sales, marketing, sales ops, marketing ops, etc. Right. So if you are having that background, maybe in any way, right? So what is the daily routine of those personas, right? Like what exactly a sales guy do, what exactly a marketing guy do, right? So in their daily routine, they reach out to the prospects, right? Maybe probably via some cold calls, email or ads, campaign, very traditional way of inbound and outbound techniques, right? So what is the challenge here is, right, it takes a lot of time, and and they always just shoot in the dark, right? So how actually 6sense is going to be helping them, right? So we help them to figure out the very appropriate prospect pipeline which they can focus on instead of just shooting in the dark, right? So how exactly we do that, right? So we receive data from multiple places, like we have third-party intent data, then we have customer CRM data like Salesforce, HubSpot, etc. And then we have customer website data, then third-party data like Firmograph, Technograph. I mean, there are a lot of varieties, right? It's like whatnot. So what exactly we do with that data? So we just process that humongous amount of data on our data platform, right? And then apply our patented AI/ML algorithms on top of it to figure out the insights for our customer, right? So what exactly they do with the insights, right? So let's say if you are my customer, right? So in that case, I can tell you who's visiting your website, what part of feature offering of your product is getting a lot of traction in the market. If you are getting searched online somewhere, right? Maybe some part of the world, right? Someone is searching about you, and what kind of campaign you are part of, right? All those stuff. I can give a very simple example, right? If you are having a website, generally people visit your website, but they don't fill the form. So it's very difficult to figure out who exactly visited your website, right? That is very complicated. But with our product offering, we can provide you that information. We can just try to figure out that insights about that anonymous user. We can give you the company name of that anonymous user, email ID probably, and sometimes a mobile number. So that kind of an intelligence we are putting around it. So yeah, so this is the value we are adding to our customer. So you can see, right, with our product offering, customer can have more opportunities, more account wins, and then larger deals, of course, and they're going to be having shorter cycles. So how they're achieving this? If sales guy know what exactly the people interested in their product, so they can just go and target that relevant set of audience instead of just spreading and praying, right? So those kind of strategy won't work anymore. So in that case, they can have shorter cycles, larger deals, more opportunities, and more wins. It's a tech session, so I just want to talk about some of the numbers, right, from our tech ecosystem. So if you see this particular slide, so we are having around 2,000 plus customer right now, right, and 800K plus data pipeline. So how many of you have been working on data, have worked on data, or working on data somehow? Could you raise your hand? Okay, probably 25%. Cool. So data pipelines means you are getting data from different places, as I mentioned earlier, and you are processing it, right? So we are having around 800,000 data pipeline running every day, and one particular pipeline consists of multiple, varieties of, processing, or data processing, I would say components like Spark, Hive, etc. So that is like, the humongous number I have seen in my experience. And then at peak hours for our Spark and Hive workload, we use around 65,000 cores, which is again, right, pretty much exceptional if you have worked on data, ecosystem. And then for our ad hoc queries, which is kind of, from our internal user, external user, as well as for, from data pipeline, we execute around 3 million plus queries every day. All right. So this is, pretty much a standard, right? So this is how, we started our journey. As I said, right, it's a 10 years old company, and Alex was talking about, like how do we start? When you are starting any company, of course, right, you don't have data, you don't have too many customers, you don't have, that scale, right, to tackle. So you start with typically, with RDBMS, probably MySQL, Postgres. Then you go on, in that journey, right? So I don't want to talk about, all the limitation of these different components here in the interest of time, but we eventually started using Presto, Tino, and HBase combinations for serving our customer, right? So Tino is pretty fast and support federated queries. If you don't know, it's a processing engine, and HBase, right, for the lookup and time series queries, right? So that way we have been, I think we were serving our customer with these combination till a year back, I would say. And then, of course, right, then since last 3 years, right, we have been growing really fast, right? As Alex mentioned, we are having, 220 million plus revenue right now, and we have 2,000 plus customer. So we decided to, try out something else, right, to basically make our customer experience better. So the last one is pretty, I think I would say it was a very great journey, experience for me personally, because I tried out a lot of options. If I have to give you some names, right, we tried out Exasol, Vertica, Teradata, Snowflake, whatnot, probably Druid and Dreamio. So there were too many options we tried out, and it took around 6 months time to finalize the solution. So I'll be talking about the key challenges, what we actually had in our ecosystem, and then how did we resolve it. So this is how our ecosystem looks like. It is very simple. You have all the metadata, right? Like for customer, how many customers you have, what kind of configuration they do have, what kind of priorities they do have. So all metadata is sitting in MySQL. And then, as I mentioned, Hadoop, right? So we are having huge ecosystem for Hadoop and Spark job in our data platform. So all the processing were happening in those two places, and all the data will be stored right in Trino and HBase, right? And which were serving all the customer-facing application, right? So this is like before SingleStore. So these are the key challenges which we started facing with the older ecosystem, right? So single source of truth, right? If you are working on a data pipeline, right, you have to process your data at at different stages. So let's say in a particular data pipeline you have 5 different hops, right? You are having 1 copy of data here, and then you are having 5 stages, and then you are reaching here, right? And let's say there is a customer sitting somewhere, and it is having a couple of requirements which are dependent on this particular data set and this particular data set, right? So in that case, what will happen, when you are updating something at the raw data, for the last stage data, we are going to be taking some time to update, right? But if customer is basically expecting a response from both the data set for 2 different kind of APIs, they are going to have 2 different copies. So it's not going to be having single source of truth. Same thing is true for our developers as well, right? If I'm developing some feature, I have to figure out which data is actually correct for me, right? So that is going to be a very big challenge. So with SingleStore, we were able to execute some of the complex queries, right, in our ecosystem, and we reduced number of hops in our data pipeline, and we saved cost as well. Then of course, right, as Alex mentioned, it's a scalable solution where you can have multiple cluster, multiple workspaces. You can have dedicated, writer workspace and reader workspace to isolate your workloads. And then of course, right, this is a solution which can help you to achieve OLTP, OLAP both. That is, I think I would say, very unique feature. If you just talk about any, third generation databases like Redshift, Snowflake, and all those things, right? It's tough to have real time. When I say real time, I'm talking about sub-second response time. If you're using any of those data warehousing solutions, it's going to be almost it's impossible, right, to get sub-second response time. Then we had a requirement of high concurrency and horizontal scalability. If we talk about our big data ecosystem, it is scalable, right? Everybody knows Hadoop scales, Spark scales very well, right? But when it comes to customers' experience, you cannot have faster response time from these systems, right? You have to have something in the middle, right, which can actually serve your customer faster. So scalability is not a challenge for processing of the data if you are using big data ecosystem, but if you are having, customer-facing, layer, in that case, you have to have something which can just provide response in sub-second time. So then low maintenance, right? If you are aware of Spark or kind of engines, right? There are a lot of things which goes behind the scene, right? You have to have Hive data warehouse, probably MySQL meta, catalog, or probably Glue catalog, something like that, and then you have to have probably HDFS or S3 object storage. So a lot of things goes behind, right? If you have to make Trino, right, for customer-facing application, right? So in that case, the maintenance overhead is too much. At the same time, right, the chances of having downtime is pretty high. If one of the components goes for a toss, you are going to have downtime for your customer, right? So that way, if you're having single store, you can store your OLTP and OLAP both. Of course, right, single store, I'm not saying you should have raw data, but you can have semi-processed data and rawish data, and there you can actually execute your complex queries, right, easily. And then one more thing, it's a kind of an add-on, right, I would say, BI connectivity. So we have internal project called Enterprise Data Warehouse, where we are just having all the internal data. And in this case, we are able to achieve, this solution. I mean, I would say, the support, right, from SingleStore. So we are having our internal enterprise data warehouse on SingleStore only, right? So after SingleStore, this is how it looks like. So we are still having Hadoop ecosystem and MySQL for all the metadata. And then, we are having SingleStore layer in the middle. And all the personas which I talked about initially, like marketing, sales, and ops, we are serving from the SingleStore layer. So the journey is still going on. I would say we have started, onboarding our customer, right, on this. So yeah, so this is the result which we eventually have been experiencing, I would say, right? So 5x time faster performance as compared to our older solution, 5x faster time to market, which I said, right, if you don't have so many components, you can do your POCs faster, you can fail fast, you can deliver fast, right? And then 5x lower TCO. If you can just, reduce the number of hops in your data pipeline, you can, reduce the computation, unit required, right? One thing which I forgot to mention, so for our, in the last 1 year, we have started, our GenAI journey. So we are having a couple of use cases like, summarization. For example, if you are a sales guy, right, and you are using our product, for next day you can get the item, right, as a summary, like what exactly you are supposed to do. Instead of, just, clicking on different links and figuring out which account to reach out, you can get a summary for with the action item, what exactly you have to do, right, for on that particular day. So that is something which we achieved with, GenAI, and we are using SingleStore for vector database, right? So we are storing all those process AI ML model in SingleStore and, serving our customer from there. Yeah, so I think we still have 2 minutes. So any question? I'm sure, right, it was pretty fast because I have to cover a lot of stuff in 10 minutes. So sorry for that, but I'm available right here. You can just reach out to me if you have any question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ashish, for it. So the reason we wanted Ashish to present that slide of showing that 5x performance, right, and 5x lower TCO, I think it's nothing like hearing it from our customers who kind of experience that journey. So today, as you are here today, looking at building your next generation GenAI RAG application, it makes total sense to go and start on a platform like SingleStore. If you already have your existing data store and you're struggling with real-time analytical use cases, we are not asking you to rip and replace. SingleStore could still be a fast data platform you can slap on top of it and address those real-time use cases. And if you really have a mission-critical application and the existing traditional first generation and second generation data store is failing, then I think you have to make the conscious choice of finding out a modern fast data platform. And that's what most of the banks and telcos, they've replaced 4 to 7 different data store with one single data platform, which SingleStore provides. Thank you, team, and do test whatever we said. It's real, and we call you to go out and test our free shared tier and see the power of platform for yourselves. Thank you.